Hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk about the first episode of the TV series, Ultraman. Ultraman is a tokusatsu TV series that aired in Japan on July 17th, 1966. That's a Sunday if you care. It's a sequel to the TV series that aired not even a year before, called Ultra Q. Ultra Q is notable for bringing the Toku action of the big screen to the small screen of your TV. Ultra Q ended on July 3rd, 1966, leaving a 14-day gap between the two shows. And that's all the Ultra Q things for today. Let's get to what you clicked on this video for. Ultra Operation Number 1. Ultra Operation Number 1 is the first episode of Ultraman. It features the monster Bemular, who still appears in Ultra shows to this day. As I said, it aired on July 17th, 1966, on the Tokyo Broadcasting System, or TBS for short. Tetsuo Kinjo and Shinichi Sekizawa wrote the episode, while Hajime Tsuburaya directed it. It also has many DVD and Blu-ray releases, like this 1999 release, a 2009 release, some Chayo releases, and a Mill Creek release. Its footage was used in a feature-length movie made in 1967, and when it would also get an English dub in 1972. Sadly, that's all the trivia I could find for this episode, so now let's move on to the plot. The episode starts with the Ultra Q logo swirling in, now in color, which had become more mainstream on TV at the time, before a red flash appears and the new Ultraman, a special effects fantasy series, fades onto the screen. After the Ultraman theme starts playing, the song is called Ultraman no Ada, which translates to Song of Ultraman. Drawings or paintings, I'm not really sure to be honest, appear on the screen, one after the other. At this point in the show, most of the panels are from Ultra Q monsters, but in later episodes, these panels would get updated to have some newer kaiju. Two of my favorite panels are this one with Naranga, who would appear in episode 3, and this one of the SSSP badge. After this, more words pop up on the screen telling you the monster of the episode. Once this is over, we cut to two orbs of light, one blue and one red. It appears that the red orb is chasing the blue orb through space. After a few brief seconds, we cut to the jet VTOL flying through the sky with the Science Special Search Party member, or SSSP, or Science Patrol for short, named Shin Hayata, looking for anything suspicious. The narrator tells us that there are 5 SSSP members in the Japan branch. Toshio Marumatsu, although he is often called Cat by his comrades, as well as the aforementioned Shin Hayata, Daisuke Arashi, Mitsuro Ide, and Akiko Fuji. After a few brief seconds, we cut to Jet VTOL flying through the sky with the Science Special Search Party. Their job is to investigate and eliminate strange phenomena across Japan, although they specialize the most in monster extermination and defending the Earth from alien invaders. Eventually, Hayata spots the blue orb flying over Ryugomori and reports to home base. The captain tells him to keep following it and find out the orb's identity. Fuji starts recording the ship's audio as Hayata reports that the object is shining blue and flying at speeds of Mach 2 and continues to follow it. Before we get to see what happened, we cut to a group of campers singing songs around a campfire. The blue orb floats down to a lake next to the campers and then flashes a blue light. The campers notice it and one goes to get a camera, because they don't have any mobile phones back then. But he trips and misses his opportunity to get a photo when the orb fully descends into the lake. Once the orb entered the water, it began to steam and bubble as if it was like water boiling. Hayata, who had lost sight of the orb, flew over the lake. But then a red light engulfed the cabin as the red orb from earlier was on a crash course of Jet VTOL. Eventually, the two crash as the campers watched. Some went over to investigate while some stood still in shock. The jet and the orb fell to the ground and exploded. A telephone rings at the SSSP HQ, and the ringtone kinda makes me think of a three-headed golden dragon, but I'm sure that's just me. A police officer, who had witnessed the event, called the SSSP and told them what had happened. After hearing this, Fuji attempts to call Hayata, but to no avail. Team leader Marumatsu orders the SSSP to deploy and head towards the site. The team swiftly takes off their more casual outfits, revealing their SSSP uniform underneath. The SSSP takes off and heads towards the site. Meanwhile, the campers and police officer find Hayata's lifeless corpse and his burning plane wreckage. Hayata's corpse begins to float before being swallowed by the orb that had killed him. The orb floats up into the sky as very eerie music plays. The campers step back and look at the orb. We then cut to the inside of the orb. Inside the orb is this strange world that looks like it's covered by a glass dome, and everything outside of it is pitch black. Sensing a presence, Hayata questions who is there. Then a strange, red and silver figure appears towering over Hayata. The figure greets himself as an alien from the M78 Nebula. He explained that he was taking the space criminal Bemular to the monster graveyard. However, Bemular escaped and began to fly towards the Earth, and then the Red Giant began to chase Bemular. The Red Giant apologized for killing him in the crash, and in return gave him a capsule that allowed him to transform into the Giant to fight evil. He was able to transform because the Giant had now fused their lives to keep Hayata alive. That's elaborating a bit though, because the Giant kept it very mysterious. The campers continued to look at the orb and ponder what to do about it. But before they could do anything, the orb exploded. Soon after the SSSP arrived on the scene, they noticed a fire. They rushed towards it to find the campers all passed out and proceeded to wake them up. The SSSP asked the campers to tell them what happened, while the other member, Ide I believe, noticed the SSSP symbol on the crashed plane and told the captain. The campers and the police officer told the SSSP about the red orb that took Hayata's corpse, but the SSSP didn't believe them. Then the campers say it was probably aliens, and the SSSP are like, oh, well that explains everything. The campers and the SSSP start a search party. However, by morning, even with the help of some military men, they were unsuccessful. Fuji calls the captain to ask how the search party is going, and the captain says it isn't going well, and will be back in an hour. Hoshino asks if Hayata is still alive, and the captain remains hopeful. However, Fuji is very concerned, and I don't disagree with her. Before the captain could even hang up, a blue flash comes from the nearby lake, and the water begins to erupt. Everyone in the search party heads to look over. Once they reach the scene, the SSSP's half-cylinder thing on their chest, they sort of resemble Ultraman's color timer, start to blink, warning them of the danger. The SSSP tells everyone to run away, but it's too late, and eerie music starts to play, and the space criminal Bemular emerges from the lake. During my second time watching this, I realized that Bemular's tongue is kinda silly, and I just wanted to point that out. As Bemular continued to rise, the SSSP fired their superguns at the monster, and despite not seeming to have much of an effect, they caused the monster to retreat back into the lake, allowing the campers to run away. Back at the SSSP base, Fuji receives a phone call from Hayata. Both Fuji and Hoshino are shocked to hear his voice. Fuji asks him where he's been, but Hayata refused to answer and requests that the S-Submarine 16 be brought to the Y mark at Ryugomori Lake. Despite Hoshino wanting to head with Fuji, she refuses to let him go to the location. The other members see a jet VTOL approaching and are confused because they didn't know Hayata was alive or that he told Fuji to bring the S-Submarine to the area. Apparently the captain already knew Fuji was in the jet, but still questioned her bringing the submarine. Fuji declares that Hayata told her to do it. The SSSP members aren't all that concerned that it was revealed that their colleague was alive, and Fuji drops the submarine into the lake. Daisuke is concerned that her actions are rash and have no basis, and then makes some dated remarks about women, but Fuji snaps back. While all of this is happening, Ide notices a boat that Hayata is driving towards them and notifies the captain. The captain calls Hayata and begins questioning where he'd been. Hayata says that he saved him. The captain is confused on who he is. Instead of answering, Hayata declares that they need to kill the monster sleeping in the lake, and reveals that the monster's name is Bemular. Hayata forms a plan to get the monster out of the lake so they can exterminate it on land. Fuji lands the jet VTOL next to the other members and the operation begins. And after what feels like hours standing there, Hayata fired torpedoes at the monster, causing it to poke its head out. Once its head was out of the water, Jet VTOL fired a missile, causing it to retreat back into the lake. However, the only thing waiting there was more torpedoes from the S-submarine. Bemular retreated back to land for Jet VTOL to fire a second round of missiles. Bemular retreated again, but Hayata was still waiting, ready to fire at the monster. Bemular returned up to the surface, clearly noticing that his flight tactics were not working. Bemular knew there was only one option. He began to fire a blue ray, called the Pale Heat Ray, out of his mouth towards the Jet VTOL, who swiftly dodged the attack. With Jet VTOL temporarily stunned, Bemular returned to the bottom of the lake to finish his business with Hayata. Bemular grabbed the S-submarine in his mouth and began walking out towards land. Jet VTOL flew behind the monster and fired missiles into its back, causing Bemular to toss the S-submarine out of its mouth, which caused Hayata to pass out. Bemular then looked back to fire a beam at Jet VTOL, but once again the SSSP dodged. Bemular then fired another ray at the crashed S-submarine, but missed it by a few feet, which set the surrounding forest ablaze. Bemular began stomping towards the S-submarine, very eager to destroy it. However, during the commotion, Hayata awoke, but wasn't able to open the hatch on the submarine. After grabbing a tool, he was able to open the hatch, and pulled out the new beta capsule, and held it up in the sky and pressed the button on the front of the strange device. The flare of 1,000,000 watts flashed, and the 40-meter tall hero emerged. This would be the first Rise sequence in the Ultra series, a sequence that would become a staple of the franchise, and each Ultra would get one. Or, well, at least most anyways. Another YouTuber, Meek Al, sorry if I mispronounced that, made a video about these rises and their evolution. If you want to see more about these, then you should check that video out. Hopefully I'll put a title card in the corner of this video here. The narrator tells us about this new hero, as the hero jumps towards Bemular and grabs the monster. However, Bemular proves to be a tough match, and pushes the giants towards a small shed, destroying it in the process. The two giants continued to push each other, until the hero threw Bemular to the ground. The hero pounces on Bemular, and the two roll into another shed, as the SSSP provides some brief yet mighty comedic commentary. The giants roll back into the lake and let go of each other so they can get back up. The hero headbutts the monster, but it wasn't very effective. A second headbutt sent Bemular flying in a 180 so the giant could grab his tail. But before the hero could do anything more, his color timer began to blink, and he had to let go. The SSSP noticed the blinking lamp because red lamps are a universal sign of danger, apparently. Despite the SSSP not being 100% sure what this blinking light meant, we know that it means that because of the Earth's atmosphere that blocks the sun's rays, the hero can only stay on Earth for 3 minutes. Bemular turns around to fire a beam at the hero, but even the hero is swift enough to dodge Bemular's beam. The hero takes to the skies and lands behind Bemular, slightly kicking him in the process. The hero then tosses Bemular to the ground and picks him up from the waist, and spins Bemular around before throwing him back to the ground. The hero body slams Bemular, and continuously hits his back. The hero then jumps beside Bemular and lifts him up. Bemular's arms weakly shake around, and the hero tosses him back into the lake, and the seemingly lifeless Bemular was swallowed by the waves. This wasn't the end of Bemular's story, as the lake flashed blue and he transformed into the blue orb once again in an attempt to escape. However, Bemular wasn't fast enough to avoid the hero's iconic Spacium beam. The SSSP members cheer as the hero defeats the monster. The hero stands triumphantly over the battlefield and flies off to space. The SSSP crew open Jet VTOL's door to find a familiar face running their way. Shin Hayata was alive. As the 5 SSSP members meet, Hayata reveals that the one who saved him was an alien. Aliens and monsters who would attack Earth, and the invincible Shin Hayata was his host. He named the alien Ultraman. Ultraman's spaceship was destroyed and he can't return home. Thus he now fights. Shin Hayata didn't mention that last part. The 5 SSSP members took off back to their base in Jet VTOL and prepared for the next threat to attack humanity. Now here are some quick facts about the monster who appears in this episode of Ultraman. In universe, Bemular is 50 meters tall and weighs 25,000 tons, and his birthplace is planet M33. Despite the episode stating otherwise, the Ultraman wiki claims that Bemular flies at speeds of Mach 1.3 while in his sphere. Bemular's signature move is his pale heat wave, which is a blue beam fired from his mouth. Bemular's next major appearance would be a whole 43 years later in the movie Mega Monster Battle, Ultra Galaxy Legends the movie. Bemular's roar is a modified Godzilla roar, being sped up and played in reverse. Bemular was originally planned to be the title of Ultraman. Because of Bemular's small arms, the suit actor couldn't fit into the armholes, and the suit actor had his arms inside of the suit, giving Bemular his fin appearance. The Bemular suit would be modified into the monster Gango from episode 11 of Ultraman. One of Bemular's eyes doesn't have an eyelid. Bemular has heavy inspiration on the monster Yanakarji from episode 49 of Ultraman Tiga. Bemular would also inspire Beast the One from the 2004 Ultraman movie. In an alternate universe, a young Daigo, Asuka, and Gamu all watch Bemular's first appearance together. Bemular, the first monster Ultraman faced, came out of a blue sphere, and Zeton, the last enemy Ultraman faced, at least in the original series, also came out of a blue sphere. And that's all the trivia and fun facts for Bemular. According to Ultrablog DX, TBS demanded that this new show should be made in color, feature Kaiju more often, and have a returning cast member from Ultra Q. Some of those requirements are weird. Now on to my final thoughts. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about my final thoughts from the series without a script, even though I actually wrote one. I quite enjoyed rewatching the first episode of the series, and I hope you enjoyed my breakdown of it and stuff. No, I really liked this episode. It's not one of the best Ultraman episodes ever. It's not one of the worst either, though. It's just kind of in the middle. But its legacy of being the first episode where Ultraman appears is certainly, icon, or it certainly has a legacy, I guess. I don't really have much else to say about it. I did like the music, and the story felt pretty easy to follow, so that was good. And I hope you guys enjoy this video, because I'll probably make some more and see how they do. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Tetsuo Kinjo and Shinichi After a few brief seconds, we cut to the Jet VTOL flying through the sky with the science